Rabbits have more legal protection in the UK than they have in many countries. They're protected by the Welfare of Farmed Animals Regulations 2007 and the Animal Welfare Act 2006. These state that rabbits need to be able to move, feed and drink without difficulty. They need to be able to lie down on their side, to sit up without their ears touching the top of the cage, and they need to be provided shelter from the weather. In the EU, there are no laws specifically about rabbits. Rabbits fall under the scope of Council Directive 98/58, which concerns the protection of farmed animals generally. It requires that those who own or keep animals take reasonable steps to make sure that they are not caused unnecessary pain, suffering or injury. This EU directive is influenced by the concept of the 5 freedoms for farm animals. These freedoms were set up by a British advisory body to the EU, and they serve as an outline concerning regulations for farm animals. They have been the cornerstone of much legislation in both Britain and elsewhere. These include freedom from hunger and thirst, discomfort, pain, injury and disease, fear and distress, as well as the freedom to express normal behaviour. These freedoms do not just apply to the living conditions of farmed animals, but all situations, including their transport and slaughter. All 5 of the freedoms are, however, clearly being ignored by those running intensive rabbit farms, as rabbits clearly experience unnecessary pain, suffering and injury. The reason the farm operators are able to get away with this is because the directive and freedoms are not legally binding, but rather serve as a guideline. In fact, the directive says these freedoms define ideal states rather than standards for acceptable welfare. Legislation concerning rabbit welfare needs to be specific and legally binding in order to be effective. The EU also need to make sure that it is implemented and issue penalties if not.